Hello once again. Myself Dr. Harshini, Associate Professor SJBIT. This is 18th video on strategic management, and 18, 19, 23 videos I'll be covering the final module of strategic management, that is strategic control. So here in this video I'll be covering mainly and focusing mainly on focus of strategic control. So further videos I'll be covering establishing strategic control, which includes premise control, strategic surveillance, special alert control, implementation control, and also I'll be concentrating on exerting strategic control through competitive benchmarking, performance, formal and informal organization. So here in this video, let me focus mainly on focus of strategic control. Then what is this strategic control means? Well, strategic controls are intended to steer the company towards a long-term strategic direction. Strategic control is concerned with tracking the system or tracking the strategy as it's being implemented, detecting problems or changes in the premises and making necessary adjustments. Strategic controls are intended to steer the company towards its long-term strategic direction. After a strategy is selected, it's implemented over time so as to guide a firm within a rapidly changing environment. Strategies are forward-looking and based on management assumptions about numerous events that may have yet occurred. So strategic control involves the monitoring and evaluation of plans, activities and results with a view towards future action, providing a warning signal through diagnosis of data and triggering appropriate interventions, be they either tactical adjustment or strategic reorientation. So thus there are two aspects in strategic control, that is evaluation of strategic action and its result, and taking necessary corrective actions in the light of this evaluation. Sometimes control phase of strategic management is divided into two distinct parts: strategic evaluation and strategic control. Strategic control process has identified certain types of strategic control, which I'll be discussing in I'll be covering it now itself. Well, two aspects of strategic control already discussed, that is evaluation of strategic action and taking necessary corrective actions in the light of this evaluation. But regarding types of strategic control, I will be discussing this in detail in the next video. But right now let me concentrate on strategic focus. As I said, I'll be discussing on the focus of strategic control. So while there are different schools of thoughts about how strategy comes about, researchers generally agree that strategic focus is a common characteristic across successful organization. So strategic focus is seen when an organization is very clear about its mission and vision and has a coherent, well articulated strategy for achieving those. When one high-flying firm encounters performance problems, it's uncommon to hear business analytics say that the firm's manager have lost focus on their customers or markets. So let me give an example. Dell Computers strategy is highly focused around the efficient sale and manufacture of computers and computers peripheral devices. However, during the mid-2000s, Dell started branching out into other products such as digital cameras, so DVD players and flat screen television. As a result, it lost focus on its core sales and manufacturing business, and its performance flagged. As recently as mid-2008, however, Dell has realized a tremendous turnover. We're executing on all points of our strategy to drive growth in every product category and in every part of the world, said a press release from Michael Dell, chairman and CEO. These results are early signs of our progress against our 4 strategic priorities. Through a continued focus, we expect to continue growing faster than the industry and increase our revenue, profitability and cash flow for greater shareholder value. So this is what happened in recently mid of 2008. So the spirit of focus is echoed and strategy, trade-off and strategy discipline is found here. All right, now to continue with then what is the strategic control is all about? Well, everything that we need to know about strategic control is they're intended to steer the company towards its long-term strategic direction. After a strategy is selected, it's implemented over time so as to guide a firm within a rapidly changing environment. So strategies are forward-looking and based on management assumptions about numerous events that have yet occurred. Strategy control is concerned with tracking the strategy as it's being implemented, detecting problems and changes in the premises and making necessary adjustments. So in contrast to post-action control, strategic control is concerned with controlling and guiding efforts on behalf of strategy as action is taking place. So strategic control is related to that aspect of strategic management through which an organization ensures whether it's achieving its objective contemplated in the strategic action. If not, what corrective actions are required for strategic effectiveness. Then about strategic control meaning, strategic controls are intended to steer the company towards its long-term strategic directions. After a strategy is selected, it's implemented over time so as to guide a firm within a rapidly changing environment. Strategies are forward-looking and based on management assumptions about numerous events that have not yet occurred. Traditional approaches to control seek to compare actual results against a standard. Work is done, the manager evaluates the work and uses the evaluation as input to control future efforts. While this approach is not useless, it is inappropriate as a means to control a strategy. So waiting until a strategy has been fulfilled, executed often involves 5 or more years, during which many changes occur that have major ramifications for the ultimate success of the strategy. So consequently, traditional control concepts must be replaced in favor of strategic control that recognize the unique control needs of long-term strategies. Strategic control is concerned with tracking the system as it's being implemented, as I already told, and detecting problems and changes in the premise and making necessary adjustments. In contrast to post-action control, strategic control is concerned with controlling and guiding efforts on behalf of strategy as action is taking place. Well, managers responsible for strategy and its success are concerned with mainly 2 sets of questions. What are those 2 sets of questions? First one is, are we moving in a proper direction? Are our assumptions about major trends and changes correct? Do we need to adjust this strategy? So this is a combination of questions, which is one set of question which usually managers are responsible for strategy and its success. And the second question is, how are we performing? Are we meeting objectives and schedules? How are costs, revenues and cash flows matching, whether they are matching projections? Do we need to make operational changes? These are few set of combination of questions in set 2, which again managers need to be addressing to. Well, strategy control are designed to answer these questions, obviously. So the control of strategy can be characterized as a form of steering control. Usually a significant time span exists between initial implementation of strategy and achievement of desired results. During the time, numerous projects are undertaken, investments made, and actions performed to implement the new strategy. So in this duration, both the environmental situation and the firm's internal situations are developing. Strategic controls are necessary to steer the firm through these events. They must provide the basis for correcting the actions and directions of the firm in implementing its strategy as developments and changes in its environmental and internal situations take place. So according to Julian and Suffers, strategic control is related to that aspect of strategic management through which an organization ensures whether it's achieving its objectives contemplated in the strategic action. If not, what corrective actions are required for strategic efficiency. Again, Julian and Griffiths defined strategic control as strategic control involving the monitoring and evaluation of plans, activities, and results with a view towards future action, providing a warning signal through diagnosis of data, and triggering appropriate interventions, be they either tactical adjustment or strategic reorientation. There are 2 aspects of strategic control: evaluation of a strategic action and its result, and taking necessary corrective actions in the light of its evaluation. Sometimes, control phase of strategic management is divided into two distinct parts: strategic evaluation and strategic control. However, because of ongoing nature of strategic evaluation and strategic control, both these are intertwined in practice. Therefore, the term strategic control is used, which includes evaluative aspect too, because unless the results of an action are known, corrective actions cannot be taken. So it's worthwhile to make a comparison of strategic and operational control, because emphasis is in both differs, though an integrated control system contains both. Alright, so here there are four major types of premise, implementation, strategy, surveillance, and special alert control. Experts in strategic management process have defined certain types, and according to them, as I mentioned, every strategy is founded on certain assumptions relating to environment and organizational forces. Certainly, some of these forces or factors are very sharp, and any change in them is sure to affect the strategy to a great extent. Hence, premise control is a must to identify the key postulations and keep track of any change in them in order to assess their impact on strategy and therefore its implementation. For example, these presumptions may relate to changing government policies, market competition, change in composition due to sudden killing virus or widespread war conditions or natural calamities, and organizational factors such as improvising production technology, VR scheme to get high-tech employees, market innovation strategies. Here, premise control serves to test continuously these assumptions to determine whether they are still valid or not. So this facilitates the strategists to take necessary corrective actions at the right time than just pulling on with the strategy based on vitiated or invalid postulations. So the responsibility for premise control is generally assigned to the corporate planning department that identifies the key assumption, keep a regular check on their validity. Talking about implementation control, in order to implement a chosen strategy, there is need for preparing quite good number of plans, programs, and projects. Again, resources are allocated for implementing these plans, programs, and projects. Purpose of implementation control is to evaluate as to whether these plans, programs, and projects are actually guiding organization towards its predetermined goals or not. In case it is felt at any time the commitment of resources to a plan, program, or project is not yielding the fruit as expected, there is need for matching revision. This is implementation control is nothing but rethinking of strategy, rethinking to avoid waste of all kinds. Now, one way of using implementation and control may be identify and monitor the strategic beat points and throw points, such as assessment of making success of new product after pre-testing or checking the feasibility of diversification program after preliminary attempts or seeking technological collaboration. So in the first case, the company is to evaluate whether the new product launch will really benefit or it should be foregone in favor of another program. In the second case, implementation control helps in ascertain whether diversification move is going to succeed or not. So another tool of implementation control is the milestone reviews, through which critical point in strategy implementation are identified in terms of events, major resource allocation, or time. This is almost similar to identification of events and activities in program evaluation review technique, that is PERT, and critical path method, that is CPM network. Once the milestones are identified, comprehensive review of implementation is made to reassess its continued relevance to attain the objectives. So next one, strategic surveillance. If premise and implementation strategy controls are more specific by nature, strategic surveillance is most generalized and overriding control, which is designed to monitor a broad range of events both inside and outside the organization, which is likely to threaten the very course of firm strategy. Such strategy surveillance can be done through broad-based general monitoring based on selected information source to uncover events that are likely to affect the strategy of an organization. Then regarding one of the author, Professor David A. Carr, in his book Developing Business Strategy, published by John Wiley and Sons of New York in 1984, suggests a formal yet simple strategic information scanning system which can enhance effectiveness of scanning effort and preserve much of the information now lost within the organization. Special alert control. This is based on trigger mechanism for rapid response and immediate reassessment of given strategy in the light of sudden and unexpected event. Special alert control can be exercised via formulation of contingency strategies and assessing the responsibility of handling for unforeseen events to crisis management teams. The instance of such sudden and unexpected events can be said sudden fall of government at center at even state, terror attacks, industrial disaster, or natural calamities of earthquakes, flood, fire, etc. So the purpose of strategy control is to identify whether the organization should continue with its present strategy or modify it so as to lighten the change circumstance. Operational control should assist the organization to be both efficient and effective, and in this way help us choose a strategy to work successfully. The basic forms of control are concerned with physical system, so that, for example, a wall thermostat may be controlled, the central heating system of house. If the room temperature falls below desired temperature set on the thermostat, boiler is started so that the water in radiators are heated and temperature rises to desired level. Many of the quality control processes within companies are physical control mechanisms designed to indicate whether or not a particular physical process is operating at a desired level of efficiency. At the end of a manufacturing process, for example, commodity can be checked to see if it operates. Well, if it's rejected, it can be scrapped, reworked. If it's obviously better to discover any faults at an early stage, and the usual method is to sample units of the product in order to check that they conform to agreed specifications. Modern control techniques are based on an ever freer zero detect approach and doing it right first time. At a strategy level, quality can be built into planning of the product or service so that it conforms to design specifications and process introduced to get it right time. These process controls are also applied to people in attempting to assess those parts of their work which can be measured. For example, salesmen are subject to sales targets, which may be in terms of the number of sales or their value. Double-licensing sales are often based on the system, so the people employed to make the initial approach to households may be rewarded according to number of sales interviews they arrange. So the salesmen then paid according to value of sales they make. In similar way, work of people in telesales can be monitored by central control system so that number of calls per hour per day, number of success can be measured precisely. So total quality management is based on idea that managers or so some of their objectives within a broad version, that all employees in the organization have both a clear focus on their aims and goals and an understanding of context in which they're working, as well as taking responsibility for work over which they have control. Then quality improvement and accountability then become a question of peer pressure within the internal customer framework, and quality improvement is a responsibility in which everyone actively participates. Strategy control can be described as continuous critical evaluation of plans, inputs, process and outputs to provide information for future action. Controls are concerned with what has happened but also aimed at anticipating what may happen. The control of manufacturing process by sampling and testing and product occurs after the process have taken place. Control applied through the company culture and by quality assured system or attempts to provide a situation where problems are anticipated. Well, for example, public relations is both about the quality of relations with customers and others, and is also about the way of achieving favorable relationships publicly, and public relation attempts to maintain the reputation of an organization and to enhance it. So that's not just concern about reacting to problem, but also encouraging an environment that enables organization to work through problems without losing its good reputation. For example, let me give one example. Toilet soap have strong reputation for being reliable, and when a particular brand soap proves to be unreliable, this is the example that proves the rule in the sense that it is seen to be very unusual and therefore does not dent the reputation of the company. And talking about strategy control, 4 important steps: setting performance standards, measuring actual performance, analyzing variance and taking corrective actions. These will be discussed in next video. So I hope you are clear with some of the concepts here. that is about focus on strategic control. So I have got 2 more videos wherein I'll be completing the whole concept of strategic control. Well, thank you so much. Keep listening.